allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Parker. Here. Councilmember Stern.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Gusson.
Here.
Councilmember Pruitt.
Here.
Councilmember Katz.
Here.
Councilmember Schwartz.
Here.
Mayor Meeting.
Here.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by Resolution 283-12, setting the 2013 meeting dates, sending a copy to the record in the Jewish Standard, filing a copy in the Township Clerk's office, and posting it on the Municipal Building Bulletin Board, and the Mayor hereby directs that this statement be included in the minutes.
Good evening. Welcome to tonight's meeting. Council met in closed session tonight, conducting interviews for the Senior Citizen Advisory Board, reappointment of the Auditor and Bond Counsel, legal issues regarding ordinances and negotiations with our various unions, and legal matter with PSE&G regarding the Teaneck substation. We also have with us our Township Manager, William Broughton, our Clerk, Jamie Avelina, the Executive Assistant to the Manager, Issa Abbasi, and Senior Clerk, Jennifer Jackson. We also have with us our Township Attorney, Bill Rupp. The next televised council meeting will take place on Tuesday, February 19, 2013, with legal opening to begin at 7 p.m. and public input to begin at 8 p.m. The first general emergency preparedness meeting is scheduled for Thursday, February 7th at the police headquarters from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. The Environmental Commission will hold a public meeting on the Environmental Resource Inventory on February 20th at 7:30 p.m. at the Rhoda Center Multipurpose Room 1. All members of the public are invited to attend. The municipal building will be open on Tuesday, February 12th. However, in observance of Lincoln's birthday, the Rhoda Center and the Police Records Bureau and the DPW will be closed. The municipal building will be closed on Monday, February 20th in observance of President's Day. First item on tonight's agenda is public hearing and adoptions of ordinances. Jamie?
Ordinance number 4283, an ordinance amending and supplementing Section 33-21.1, subsection I of Chapter 33 of the Township Code, entitled Development Regulations, to add the Big Road Red Oak Tree located on a portion of Lot 25 and Block 2609 to the list of designated historic sites. Ordinance number 1-2013. An ordinance amending Section 36-11.2 of Chapter 36, entitled Traffic of the Township Code, establishing restricted on-street parking spaces for handicaps along a portion of Locust Street. Ordinance 2-2013. An ordinance amending Chapter 36, entitled Traffic of the Township Code.
Any members of the public who would like to comment on these ordinances? Seeing no hands, the public portion of the hearing is now closed. Any members of council wish to comment on the ordinances?
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about the handicap ordinance. We spoke at the last meeting about, originally my concept was to do a sunshine, what's it called, a sunset clause in them. But Councilman Stern actually had a suggestion that we review them, and we've said that we're going to review them. I just wanted to get an update if we did that and how they came out.
Yeah, we last did that last year in January. They reviewed them all. They contacted residents, and they found all the ones that we had were needed. Last we said we were going to get on a 2-year schedule, so we'll do this again in 2013, January of 2013. We'll review them again.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Roll call, please.
I'm actually
No,
making a motion.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Moved.
I'll make it.
Moved by Councilman Parker, second by Deputy Mayor Gusson.
Councilmember Parker?
Yes.
Councilmember Stern?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Gusson?
Yes.
Councilmember Pruitt?
Yes.
Councilmember Katz?
Yes.
Councilmember Schwartz?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Next item on tonight's agenda is good and welfare. This is where any member of the public can speak on any matters on this agenda or anything related in the town. Sorry, Councilman Katz.
Yeah. I just want to throw it out to the council. It was brought to my attention that there are 4 houses that surround Votee Park on Queen Anne Road, or something like that, by Route 4. 2 of those 4 are currently up for sale, and the question is, would it be council's, would council have an interest in maybe looking to purchase those so that we can add it to our Votee Park? Obviously, I'm not in favor of taking property and taking off our tax roll, but here's a unique opportunity to help enhance our best, our largest park in town. So I just put it out there. Time is obviously of the essence.
Got a check for it?
Well, we have, I mean, we have the, not for this year, but, you know.
Yeah, but we have to pay for it this year, so.
The answer is it's just a concept right now. I don't know how much it is, what it is. But,
So if we can instruct the manager to get us some information on how much it's going to cost to purchase those houses, then we can discuss it. Does that work for everyone?
Sounds good.
Okay. Howard?
Howard Rose, Teaneck resident. Just regarding the statement made by Mr. Katz. Boy, I would love to see a little less of our dream wish for the field at Votee Park and a little more in terms of additional land for parking, which seems to be so sorely needed at this point in time. What I came up to say, though, without having heard that, it's regarding last week's meeting. I get concerned when I hear people addressing council and it becomes, I guess, the basis of incivility and innuendo and statements against people whom I know. I know every one of you up here. And I don't think that you're malicious, mean-spirited. I find that I disagree with some of the things you do. I try and do it in a respectful way. But when I hear remarks that are detrimental, nasty, mean, made by people who have been here for many years, or from people who are relatively speaking brand new here, I find that they're close to assaulting verbally these individuals who lead our township. You can laugh in the background, and you can show your disrespect and your discourtesy, but I think this is a meeting that's held, and if you don't respect the person, that doesn't mean you can't disagree with them. It means bring up points that are valid, that are documented, and not presumptive. Don't assault their integrity. I see that done all too often to the offices of this council. If you have a real concern, you bring it up. If you have a greater concern, bring a lawsuit. Do whatever you want. But respect the office and give some courtesy to the officials who are here. That being said, now comes a time where I disagree with you. I would like to know what the length of a lever has to be to force an issue that seems to be of such strong concern to so many residents when it comes to a 4-day week, when it comes to a $3.5 million expenditure for a former police building, when there's so much information at the disposal of the council to say, we had a good idea, or what we thought was a good idea. And I don't say it was a wrong idea, and I understand at times that I disagree that has been pointed out by the mayor, and rightly so. It's not necessarily wrong, but it's something that you, Howard Rose, don't necessarily agree with, and that's okay. But I would like to see a little more flexibility and understanding the needs of the community displayed by the council in several instances on several topics. So again, what is the leverage? How do we get from $4.5 million back to $2.5 million on Votee Park? How do we get the possibility of a couple of alternatives rather than only reviewing a $3.5 million renovation to a building? I'm concerned when I hear that, oh my goodness, it's such an embarrassment to the town to see this building lying idle for so many years. Well, that may be an embarrassment, but the bigger embarrassment is a town letting it lie idle and deteriorate for such a long time. Because concurrently we're watching this building deteriorate. We watched the cupola of the building deteriorate. The foundations are deteriorating and some of the windowsills. We watched our library deteriorate for a while. And my goodness, natural things were happening in terms of water seepage, this, that, and the other for the new police building. So maintenance, perhaps, rather than renovation. Give it some thought, and I'd like to hear your responses. Thank you.
Norma?
Do we still give our names and addresses?
Just your name, Teaneck.
Norma Geddes. Regarding Councilman Katz's suggestion to buy 2 houses to expand Votee Park, I don't know if you guys remember, but when we did our open space and recreation plan, and had it approved. We got, as a result, a $500,000 planning incentive grant from New Jersey. They will pay half of whatever we want to spend on open space, on expanding our open space. It's been lying there for a year and a half now. We have a few months left. But if we move swiftly, we might be able to use that money to expand Votey Park.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. For those of you who don't know, my name is Michael Raghavan, and I'm here to reintroduce myself to most of you in my new capacity as chair of the Environmental Commission. And I thank Mr. Broughton and the members of the council for supporting me and getting me appointed, and also thank my fellow members of the commission for electing me chair. It was almost unanimous. I tried to dissuade them, but they talked me into it anyway. There's much to accomplish in Teaneck in the area of the environment, and most people agree that for Teaneck to continue to thrive, it must also grow its tax base. Contrary to popular opinion, growth and development are not in conflict with protecting the environment. It is not whether to grow, but how we grow. And I believe, and the state has endorsed, the concept of smart growth. And failure to address environmental concerns up front does not, in fact, save money. It postpones expenditures that only grow larger as time passes, and addressing issues honestly and early saves money both for property owners and taxpayers as a whole. Under my leadership, the Commission is going to provide the necessary guidance to the town government on how to encourage development without putting undue burden on residents. We're going to be discussing over the next few weeks how to shape our agenda for the coming year to be an effective partner with the Council, the Planning Board, the Board of Adjustment, in making Teaneck a better place to live and work. We're very happy that our liaison to the Council is our mayor. We see as a strong partner in our efforts to promote sustainability, environmental responsibility, and smart growth. Speaking of sustainability, we also hope to incorporate the Advisory Commission on Sustainability and its activities into the Environmental Commission, and you will hear more about that from me in the next few weeks as we prepare for recertification as a sustainable Jersey municipality. That's that plaque that's on the wall there. Finally, as the mayor mentioned in opening this meeting, there's a special public meeting on February 20th at the Rhoda Center to present our progress on the Environmental Resource Inventory. Supported by town funds and a grant, the ERI is an important document that will be used both by the public and private entities for planning and development, and we invite all members of the council as well as everybody in the room and all residents to attend the meeting at 7:30 on Wednesday the 20th. You'll get a first look at the maps that are going to be the foundation of the ERI and an opportunity to ask questions of both the Commission and our consultant. And we hope you can all attend that meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Norman?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the Council. I'd just like to say a few words in support of the resolution that we presented to you all 2 weeks ago. The resolution in support of legislative and other initiatives to promote public safety by reducing gun violence. Mayor, you raised some concerns at that time, and I'd like to answer them a little more fully now. You observed, I think quite rightly, that New Jersey already has some of the strongest gun laws in the nation, and I think you're absolutely correct, it does. However, we're still vulnerable. We're vulnerable to the influx of illegal guns from other states that don't have laws that match our own. And that is why we need to support a national approach to this problem. It's the biggest problem concerning guns that we have in New Jersey. It's the guns that come in from other places. And in that regard, I think that is one of the reasons that we would like to see Teaneck, the mayor of Teaneck, you, Mr. Mayor, join Mayors Against Illegal Guns, because that's an organization that specifically addresses itself to this problem of illegal guns from other states, the transport of illegal guns from state to state. And I understand that there may be a certain reluctance to deal with an organization that is largely headed by an individual with whom we might not agree on some things, but I think all of our roles in this particular issue and in a lot of issues is to find that common ground where we can agree. And once we live in that common ground, we can push and pull to try to expand the common ground, understanding that we're never going to get universality, but that common ground is where, in this contentious culture and society, we need to live. So I'd like you to consider that along with the other measures, and I think it's very, very important to support national approaches to the national part of this very vexing problem. Thank you.
Mr. Griffin.
Jim Griffin, Wyndham Road. Mr. Mayor, Mr. Council members, Mr. Parker. Just to follow up with what Jim had mentioned about the new coalition that we have created, the Bergen County Coalition Against Gun Violence that we talked about 2 weeks ago. I see you're listed to vote on it tonight on Resolution K, and we're happy to see that. I just want to give you an update as far as we know for the past 2 weeks. We understand that the towns of New Milford and Fairlawn have already signed a resolution. And tonight, Hackensack is doing the same thing that we're doing. Hopefully they'll sign off on it. And then within the next week, Fort Lee, Englewood, and Demarest, we understand those councils are doing the same thing. Those are what we know of. As far as Mayors Against Illegal Guns is concerned, there's well over 800 mayors throughout the country. There are 15 mayors that we know of here in Bergen County, and that's what we're specifically looking for. And hopefully Teaneck will be the 16th, and the other 4 will be up to 20. If I can take a moment out, I'll just read off the town's names, and most likely you gentlemen and Lizette may know these people. Bergenfield, Pagoda, Cloister, Emerson, Hackerstown, Marwa, Midland Park, Ridgewood, River Edge, Westwood, Woodcliff Lake, Little Ferry, Moonachie, North Arlington, and Tenafly. Those are a total of 15 towns that have signed, the mayors have signed off on the Mayors Against Illegal Guns. So, to summarize it, there's a lot of activity that we've been doing countywide, and we're trying to understand what we are up against and trying to overcome it. And as Jim mentioned, New Jersey has one of the toughest states, one of the toughest states in the country as far as illegal guns are concerned. But 40% of them come into this country, into the state from Philadelphia. Pennsylvania has one of the worst states in the country, and you can see the amount of guns that come in through there, through other states. So, thank you so much, and we look forward to getting a positive resolution tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Schwartz.
Ron Schwartz, 698 Larch Avenue, Teaneck, New Jersey. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Gabby Gifford spoke before Congress this week, and I don't know if any of you saw her in her halting recovery speech. She said, "Be bold, be courageous, and you must act." There are tremendous forces arrayed against the type of sentiments that are envisioned by Resolution K tonight. Tremendous economic forces arrayed against and taking any action to stem the scourge of gun violence in this country. All we have is our voices. And as individuals living in the township of Teaneck, we can write letters, which we have, to our president who's asking for our support. But as a community, you are in the unique and privileged position where you have the right and maybe even the obligation to speak on behalf of the 38 to 40,000 people that live in this community with one voice, because we're coming to you to express our feelings as one voice, as a community of people, the Township of Teaneck, to show our concern and our support to President Obama for these legislative proposals that he has presented. All sorts of communities across New Jersey, as you've heard, are engaging in this type of voice. And Teaneck has always been in the front of social action and social change. We ask you tonight to voice our opinions, to express our voice to the nation through your action on Resolution K tonight. Our children, unfortunately, and it's sickening, are in jeopardy. We are in jeopardy. Your children are in jeopardy, and the children of Teaneck are in jeopardy. We need this resolution tonight to show the country where Teaneck stands. Please, consider this resolution and support it. Thank you very much.
Mr. Kinlock?
Good evening, Council. I am here tonight to rescind my letter of resignation dated December 27, 2012. In 2007, the community came together to stop an apartment building from being erected at 1515 Teaneck Road. With the community working together with the Council, this task was accomplished and the building was stopped, and at the same time we were able to have the BR zone changed to protect North Teaneck Road. At that time, the Mayor was encouraging residents to join the different advisory and statutory boards. I felt that my background would be the best place for me to join on the planning board. I applied for the position, I had my interview, went to the training class, passed the test, and was appointed on July 22, 2008 as alternate number 1 to begin a new challenge on the planning board. After serving on the board for 4.5 years, it was reasonable that I would be the appropriate person with the time, experience, and tenure to fill any full regular board membership that became available. As an alternate, I was looking forward to becoming a full regular member of the board. After the last election for town council, a member of the planning board ran for council and won, which then left a permanent seat open to be filled. It would seem fit that the first alternate would move into that position, the second alternate would move into the first alternate position, and a new applicant would fill the second alternate position. This would be the correct standard protocol for a public position of this sort. However, the council on September 24th voted to fill the open, full board position with a new applicant and skipped over me as the first alternate already on the board. As a City College School of Architect graduate, a Westchester Community College School of Civil Technology graduate, and having been recently certified in construction management from Bergen Community College School of Continuing Education, I bring extensive professional training to over 10 years as an application engineer with an industry leader in that field, and as a member of the U.S. Green Building Council. With my qualifications and years of experience, this qualifies me to help this township with issues that are special responsibilities of the planning board. Hence, I was highly disappointed and upset that I was unjustly passed over for this full regular board appointment. Hence, just over a month ago, I decided to resign. Tonight, I am rescinding that resignation as alternate number 1 and requesting to be appointed as a full voting member. Please note that the decision to resign and then rescind the resignation is one council has recently ratified. Council has, as of July 24, 2012, affirmed the right of public officials to rescind their prior decisions to resign and to again take their legitimate positions to term, since Council itself clearly cites Ryan Smelt versus Goldfeld as the rationale for doing exactly what I am doing today. Although an appointment was made to fill the alternate number 1 spot, if the person to fill the spot has not received an official letter, then the seat must still be unfilled. But before I finish, let me add still another dimension in this matter. I have recently carefully reviewed the process by which this council has made 2 regular planning board members' appointments on September 24, 2012 as part of its consent agenda. I am noting that by the process by which this resolution was passed on September 24, consent agenda was itself improper. In fact, the nominations for appointment were not contrary to what is stated in the minutes for September 11, 2012, actually voted on by the council. Let me clarify. First, there was a defect in the process by which the planning board nominees were considered that night of September 11, 2012. The planning board issue was not on the council agenda, and no process of placing it on the agenda was invoked. But even more important, in a review of the video of that meeting clearly shows that the decision that night of various appointments was confused, but at no point was a vote taken whereby any applicant was nominated. Hence, not only am I tonight retaking my position as first alternate, but I am in addition formally notifying this body that I am more than a candidate for full planning board membership. Indeed, I lay claim to what is merely a right to become a regular member of the planning board, and given my professional experience, believe that if I were again to be denied that membership, it would be for reasons both inconsistent with the values of this town and, in my judgment, inconsistent with the vows taken by members of this council. I thank you in advance for your consideration to this issue.
Hello, Gwen A. Cree, Teaneck. I stand here tonight as the president of the Northeast Teaneck Block Presidents Association, and I'm standing here in support of James Kinlock and his desire to return to the planning board as a full voting member. I have attended many planning board meetings, board of adjustment meetings. I look at the people that sit on the boards, but I don't know if they are full members or they are sitting there as alternates. But I firmly understand where Mr. Kinlock is coming from. And I think all of you would agree with me that if you were in his place, if you were standing in his shoes, and you sat in a seat for 4.5 years, for what? Is it for decoration? You don't get to vote unless someone else does not show up. And that begs to wonder, you know, why were you put there in the first place? Were you appointed to this position because you were qualified? Or was it a convenience that you needed someone just to fill in? And I really take exception to it, because when this issue came to us, Mr. Kinlock brought the issue to the association, which he's a member of, and we felt we had to look into it. And upon doing it, it was like opening Pandora's box, because the more we look into it, the more questions arose. Why was this? Why was that? How did this person get appointed? Why was this person appointed? Do we know anything as a public? You know, I'm saying this because the more we looked at it, the more we found out, well, let me speak for myself. The more I looked at it, the more I found out that there's a lot I didn't know. I don't know who most of the people, who are these people that are appointed? Do we know if they have qualifications or qualifications of any value? Does qualification hold value, or do they not? But I just found it a little strange, and the more I delved into it, the more questions came up. And I find it, you know, a little disconcerting that if a person decides, yes, I want to serve my community, And if I'm qualified, I feel that's what I should do. Sure, you will sit there as an alternate. If you're placed that and appointed as an alternate, you sit there, yes, until there is a vacancy. But when you're skipped over, I'm sure all of you sitting there, you wouldn't want that to happen to you. It's just not, you know, I won't use the word that came to mind, but I'll just move on. I have another question, and that is when and how does the community know when a position becomes available? And how does a newly appointed person who has not been an alternate, how do they know about the position? Like I said before, the council who appoint these people, they may know the qualifications, but I think now that I have delved into this, and, you know, I've Googled, I've done all of that. So now I think a lot of questions are out here. And what I'm saying is, you know the qualifications, but we don't. And I want to know. And I am hoping, is that for me? Okay. And I'm hoping that we can get some answers. And if the process needs changing, do the right thing like Teaneck always does. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Ms. Wilson, if you could just give me. Mr. Vatsky? Mr. Vatsky? Mr. Vatsky, would you like to speak or no?
I'll speak, Mayor.
I want to speak on behalf of Jim Kinlock. I know him well, and I know the trap, once again, the trap you've laid for yourself. Because I've seen the the ordinance. And there is no word that says an alternate can rise to be a full member. Okay? But are the people that are selected as alternates told that? Are they misled? Do you just leave it open? It's improper. I'm sure Mr. Kinlock and other members would say, hey, I'm the first alternate. Alternate to what? To a member who steps down. You left that impression on people who served the town, and you did not clarify it. I would call that improper. I would call that not full disclosure. You could say, you can be a first alternate, but that's where it ends. We can pick anybody to fill a permanent position. You have no extra advantage because you've served for years on this committee. That's not good community relations. I'm surprised that you put me ahead of these people to speak. You know, I didn't ask for that. I was expecting that I'd speak after them. Now I'm speaking for them. And with the 5 minutes that I have, is it okay?
Yes.
All right. You know, you really shouldn't do that with it. Okay? Due process. Due process. You need a department of due process because you're caught too many times. Okay? You've got to do better, council. Everybody's catching you. It catches on. People see it. You dispense $65 million of our tax dollars a year, and you hope you get away with it. That's the impression you're giving us, the voters. Now, I've been sending you emails about the 4-day work week, and I've been asking you, Mayor, directly, to state your position. And you say you don't want to negotiate in front of the public, and you shouldn't. I don't want you to. You better not. Let's be clear, I don't want you to negotiate. I'm on the record as saying that. But you can tell us the town council's position on the 4-day work week. Because I already have the position
of the union. The union they stated publicly in April, they said, we will fight. We will fight the return to 5-day work week. Will you fight? Or are you going to let it down? You're going to just go, oh, well, are you fighting for us? Are you fighting for the 35 hours that we have service so that 7 of those hours are on Friday? Or are you just going to go in the room, close the door, and see what you can get? The people want Fridays back. Friday was the absolute worst day to pick for closing town hall because it's Friday. Now, you have an example. And I'm sorry, May, that you have to listen to this, but I have to write those letters in the middle of the email, and I don't know if you bother to read them. Okay? I know a mayor who had a 5-day work week and a 4-day work week and went back to a 5-day work week pretty directly. And you can call him and speak with him if you think his name is Mayor Reina, R-E-I-N-A, and he's the mayor of Jackson, New Jersey. Okay? It went from 5 to 4 to 5. There is a way. He did it. You can do it. This council can do it. Don't wave your hands. It was too tough. It was too hard. They had to get agreement for the union negotiating committee. See what the agreement was. Please. We have missed Friday service for over 170 Fridays. Unnecessary. There are no extended hours. This was a trade from on-peak time, access to town hall, to off-peak time, access to town hall. And where was the access taken away? Fridays, before a weekend, before a 2 or 3 day weekend. You made it harder to do business in Teaneck. I know you're in the gym. I know you're sympathetic. I know you understand. I want you to move. Thank you.
Ms. Wilson, I'd also like to apologize to you because in the past I've allowed people to come up and talk at 4 at a time. It seems tonight we have a bunch of issues tonight where I want everybody to have their say, whether it's the 4-day work week, whether it's pro-gun control, anti-gun control, what have you. We have an hour of good and welfare. So in the past I've allowed people to come up, so I apologize for that, but I want to make sure that everybody gets their fair share in speaking on every issue that they want, and in the future that we can avoid, I'll get to everybody, but in the future we could avoid people coming up all at once. This way, if everybody can get their fair share and not just one person come up and then 4 people talk about the same subject. Thank you.
Okay, I will accept your apology. Gloria Wilson, and I am here on behalf of the Northeast Teaneck Block President Association as the Vice President of the Northeast Block Association, as well as a resident with at least 3 concerns that I'd like to ask you. Since it has come to my attention regarding James Kinlock's position as an alternate, I'd like to know, is the process in writing for statutory board and also for the appointments? And if so, what is the process to moving up into the positions? Are there guidelines in place? And I'd like to know if there are guidelines in place, can you make sure that there is diversity within them? What measures are in place to make sure we maintain the diversity? For as far as the process of moving up, I'm not sure of it either. I have been very interested myself in serving on some of the different boards. And if the boards are conducted in the way I'm hearing it, then I would not want to be one of the people in the community that also is interested. So please answer the question if you can for me. I will be here to the end of the meeting, as well as if I'm not pleased on any of the response that I get tonight, I do not want you to know that I will be continuing to follow it, and I will be in James Kinlock's position for a long time, knowing what's going on here in Teaneck. And as I said, I am also a concerned resident, and I am very interested in serving on the statutory boards and other boards in this town. Thank you.
Ms. White.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. I'm Patricia White. I'm here on behalf of the Northeast Teaneck Block Presidents Association in support of Mr. James Kinlock. Council, my question is, How did a newly appointed person not serving on the planning board receive an appointment as a permanent member? My request on behalf of the Northeast is that we are asking that you reconsider your decision that your appointment of full members to the planning board and other statutory board reflect our community in terms of ethnicity, in terms of race, and in terms of culture. Council, we know and trust that you will do the right thing, and we thank you for your positive decision.
Lou Schwartz, Irvington Road, Teaneck. I was surprised to learn that the council had not reappointed, appointed your number one alternate to the planning board. Oh, by the way, I am a rank and file member of the Northeast Community Organization. I think you've made a big mistake, because what you've done is create more divisions in the town. And as you can see, a division is developing because of what you did. That wasn't such a great thing that you had to do, just the right thing to do. And I, of course, support and urge you to recognize you made a mistake, and mistakes should be corrected. Mature people correct mistakes they make. You can find a way easily enough to change it. All you have to do is ask the one you appointed to resign, to permit James to become a full member, then you can put the other one on as the alternate.
Ma'am in the back. In the gray, yes.
Thank you. Sandra Silverberg. Good evening. I've been asked by the civic organization Bergen Grassroots to read a statement supported by a consensus of Bergen Grassroots Steering Committee at its recent meeting. As you may know, Bergen Grassroots is dedicated in part to supporting open, transparent, good government within our county, irrespective of particular political affiliation. Here is the statement. Bergen Grassroots shares concerns about the issues raised by the Northeast Block Association and Teaneck 2020 regarding the appointment processes used to fill positions on the Teaneck Township statutory boards. It is essential that the public understand the process by which appointments occur and the qualifications of those who are appointed to these important and powerful township boards. Appointments should be made at a minimum with careful consideration of competency and of the demographic diversity of the township. Thank you.
Lewis.
Lillian Lewis Teaneck. I'm here also in support of James Kinlock and his position. I think it was an error made, probably an honest mistake, but I think he is deserving of the position as a permanent planning board member because he did go through 4 years of training. Thank you.
Mr. Rasheen. Mr. Rasheen.
Dr. Rasheen, Teaneck. Couple of things. I do not belong to any party, neither Democratic nor Republican nor Tea Party. Okay, so however, we'll just when and I'm not a close friend of former Councilwoman Toffler, but when she came here, she talked business, which was not usual, and did not mention anybody's names, and it just switched on, and deputy mayor started to call her and tell her that she does something and all of that. Well, and basically I looked at it and I remember that deputy mayor all the time told that the artificial turf field will be mainly funded by grant. So, okay, I decided, hell with it, I agree, I disagree, whether the Environmental Commission members agree or disagree, we don't pay for it, okay, people want it, fine, go. Now it appears that, yes, $700 from the government, already about $250,000 for measuring the stuff, so it's $500, plus about $3-4 million from the taxpayers. Okay, great. Now, this is what I see, okay, the deputy mayor tells us that we have to keep budget fixed or decrease it, okay? However, on the other hand, well, here is $3 million here, just for the artificial field, $3 million because we have empty building and we have to throw money into it, okay? Otherwise, it's not nice, okay? Then, under the consolidation of the debt program, okay, the debt jumps $12 million up because we have a lot of things to do. Now, resolution about the new generators, okay, so it doesn't say why it should be peak power. During the blackout, you do not use peak power. You switch something off. It's one thing. Second thing, the service, okay, tells normally costs depending on power. Okay, I talked to the company which basically installed those generators. Third thing is, it's not necessary to put 3 generators. It's enough to put one big one, say, behind police station, and put a cable, so you do not build these ugly things in front of the children's reading place. Now, the thing is, again, what it looks like, you see, is that, our deputy mayor is not just good in throwing the pumpkins, but he is good in picking our pockets. Great. Okay, so the thing is, and big, you see, it's not the top, not Mayhoff, but some. Okay, so the thing is, again, as for the mayor, okay, I tell you that I'm not a member of the party, but I did go and talk to anybody, okay, reasonable people, and I can tell you that first of all, Tea Party has not committed any crimes of which it is really accused. Okay, these are cliches from particular newspapers mayor reads. Okay, I know some members of the Tea Party who are much better educated, much better qualified, and more honest than the mayor. Please don't use cliches to put it on somebody. Again, 2020, when they did attack, for example, the clerk, okay, was wrong. If they are talking like former councilwoman Toffler, that we are talking about $4 million for the field. Nice thing, but can we afford it now? Or we decided it 5 years ago. Doesn't matter. 5 years ago was different economy. Okay, so the thing is, again, it's money. Our pockets are cleaned, okay, and it looks like this council decided they are elected to spend our money as much as they want. As they decide, that's good, okay? They decide, not we. They don't serve us, they rule us. And that's not something I am going to accept. Again, I am independent. I supported many things that this council tried to do, but I think it's cheating. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, in the front row.
Howard Alt, resident of Teaneck. I'll be real quick. I just have a problem with the parking, the 3-hour parking in Teaneck. I live on a street where there's only 3-hour parking Monday through Saturday, and I'd just like a situation where we could get maybe little stickers saying we live on Chadwick, so we can park a little bit longer than 3 hours. I went through the proper channels and put in an application to get it changed, and it basically was told this is the way we've always done it. Those are the last 7 words of a dying company. Don't want to see the town die. So I was told my next step is I have to come here and get it on record and then start a procedure, so that's why I'm here. Just one other thing, someone or maybe several people have their phones on vibrate up there, because I'm hearing it all the time. So don't look at your phones. I don't want anyone embarrassed or anything, but you can, if someone can turn their phone off vibrate, just check it every few minutes, because it's going off all the time anyway, so you'll get all your emails. Thank you.
Mr. Sohn?
Alan Sohn, Teaneck resident. We answer to a higher authority. With that slogan, Hebrew National has taken a product, the hot dog, the quintessential mystery meat, and turned it into a premium product bought by Jews and overwhelmingly by non-Jews who believe it to be better because it exceeds minimum government standards. When people are sick, people look for the best doctor. People don't want to find a doctor who meets minimum government standards. Government standards very often allow contaminants in food products, things like insect parts or rodent hairs. Let's take a product like, for example, hypothetically raisins, where the federal government, the USDA, may allow 3.5 rat droppings per unit weight. Now, some companies go out of the way to make sure that there are 0 rat droppings. Some companies try to keep it below 3.5 rat droppings. And some companies may go out of their way to add 3.5 because they may be entitled. Too often, it seems that we follow those minimum standards here in Teaneck. And looking at the 4-day work week, it seems that we follow that 3.5 standard too often. Is it legal to fail to report the results of the 6-month experiment to the public? I'd say that's worth 3.5. Is it legal to report in closed session on February 9th, 2010, that the manager, quote, received utility cost information from the chief financial officer, however, the savings were not easily quantified as the township did not have a timer? I think that's a 3.5. Is it legal to have the township manager sign a contract with AFSCME Local 820 in April 2010 without approval from and signature of the mayor and without notification to the public? I think that exceeds 3.5. Or to approve an employee manual in August 2010 and only find out 2.5 years later, without any notification, that when the employee manual said 4 or 5 day work week, that meant that was included, and that's what the employee manual meant. I think that gets a 3.5 from the East German judge. Is it legal to be 3 years late in reporting financial results and have it turned out that the purported $50,000 savings over 2 years are really $23,000 in savings from the 4-day work week, less than $1 a day per taxpayer a year? That may be legal, but I think that follows the 3.5 standard. The 4-day work week was implemented without public discussion and without public notification. All discussions as disclosed were either in closed session or were using code words of the employee manual to represent the 4-day work week. Teaneck residents are in the top 10% in equalized tax rate in Bergen County, a county with one of the highest rates of taxation in New Jersey, and the state with the highest tax rates for property tax in the nation. We deserve and pay for the highest quality government in Teaneck. Hebrew National answers to a higher authority, but there are thousands of Teaneck residents who won't eat it because they answer to an even higher authority. There are thousands of Teaneck residents who buy and look for halal products, for organic, for fair trade, for macrobiotic or vegan products, and they won't settle for minimum government standards. Too often, township government, our township council, our township manager aims low, takes the low road, and lives the low life. We need government that answers to the highest authority, the people of the township of Teaneck. Thank you very much.
Just by a show of hands, how many more people would like to speak?
I was
Okay, we have 10 minutes. Mildred?
I'm going to speak with regards to the fact that Mr. Rose, who's very often stands up here and expresses himself and his distaste for things that you do, and believe me, you do not preserve the integrity of the office of counsel many times over. Preserving the integrity of the office is not calling out people, calling them racist, or calling out people saying you belong to a Tea Party or anything like that, for expressing their concerns about what you elected officials do. Now, I won't call you out and call your names, but many times over the years, you have done things that are very distasteful, and many of you, and made decisions. Not all, but you know who you are. And when we get up here and we exercise our rights to stand before this mic and to tell you how we feel about what you're doing, far be it for anybody, especially people who swing one way or the other, to get up here and condemn any people for expressing what's their right. Now, I just wanted to get that out there. Now, I snickered because time and time again, I've read in the newspaper things that you've said about each other, attacking one another, our dear senator. That's not operating under the integrity of the office of counsel. And it's totally disrespectful. So when we talk about respect and integrity, it begins with you guys. Okay, and as far as Mr. Kinlock is concerned, I spoke to this council a couple of council meetings ago, and I expressed my concern about it, because that's not the first time, and I know it's not, that you have done that. And that's not operating under the integrity of the office by merely placing your friends on those boards. And when I first came upon going to the council, going to the board of the planning board and all the other boards, I looked and I saw that it was lacking diversity. I spoke with you, Mr. Katz, who was then mayor, Councilman Katz, and you indicated to me that other segments of the community do not apply. So I went out and I rallied and I got people interested in to interview for those positions, and many were placed. Some were now serving, others are not. Nonetheless, now you still are operating with placing people in an unfair manner. And I asked, why? Why? You know, Mr. Kinlock served, again, I reiterate, 5 years serving this town, and it's an insult with his qualification and experience for you to do that. And by the way, I'd like to see people representative of this community on that board, because on those boards, because they make decisions that affect people in this town's community where they live, their neighborhoods, what's being built, what's not being built. Those are very important issues concerning where we live, and to preserve the values of our property. We want to have some say-so, and we'd like to know what's going on and what's going to be built and how. That's how we came about coming out and expressing our concern for 1515, so we didn't have this big building put up on the corner of our streets. And I'm happy, and I thank you, James Kinlock, and all the other people that serve on those boards. But I ask you, do the right thing and make the right decision. This is Black History Month, and this is the anniversary of the Emancipation Proclamation, and I don't want to feel like I'm being pushed back. Please, do the right thing. And I think it's very, very disrespectful, and you're wearing it. I'm sorry to say, Mr. Mayor, you're wearing it, okay? By virtue of what you did up here and what you're doing here, you're taking things personally. And that's not operating under the integrity of this office. It ain't personal, it's business.
In the back.
What is it? You're choosing big who talk?
Josh Levy, Teaneck. I'm here on behalf of 11 Teaneck residents, including myself, to request respectfully that the council postpone for 90 days at least its vote on the anti-gun proposal in order to gather the basic relevant facts and the full range of voter opinion. We emailed you a letter on Sunday explaining our concerns, and I have copies of that letter here for your review if you wish. Surely many others would have joined us had there been time to reach out to them, but the proposal in question was put forward only 2 weeks ago at the most recent council meeting. At that meeting, the council did not try to identify all the relevant facts, nor attempt to consider opposing views, nor discuss the fundamental liberty at question, the right to self-defense, that would be restricted by the proposal. Several citizens stated simply that murdering people with guns is bad, that they care very much about this problem, and that the council should endorse the anti-gun measures suggested by President Obama and by members of the State Assembly. But these disjointed statements do not constitute an argument. They didn't constitute one last week, and they don't constitute one tonight. They merely describe feelings, nor do they contain any relevant facts except that sometimes people are murdered, sometimes with guns. This one fact alone does not tell us anything. People also save themselves and their children, sometimes by using guns. If the council is going to nominate the mayor to speak as part of a national group on behalf of the entire Teaneck community, it is only proper that the council understand the views of all citizens, those of gun owners, as well as those of anti-gun groups. It is likewise only proper for the council to collect, through research and testimony, the relevant information on guns, crime, and self-defense. At a minimum, such information should cover the operation and capabilities of guns currently available for lawful purchase, for instance, the fact that a so-called assault rifle is not in any material way different from a hunting rifle, the use of these guns and their accessories under state and federal laws, the nature of violent crime in Teaneck, and the needs of a citizen in defending his family and himself. It is especially important that the council not act hastily because the right to self-defense is fundamental. First, as a matter of principle, there is no right to life without the right to defend one's life against unjustified attack. Second, as a practical matter, the police cannot be everywhere at once. And if a citizen is injured because the police do not come, he has no legal recourse. The Supreme Court has long held that the police have no general duty to protect us. Gun owners in New Jersey who respect the law are caught in a bind. We are not allowed to rely on our own arms to keep us safe, except at home and under very stringent limitations, but nor can we always and everywhere rely on the police. Other speakers here tonight may attempt to offer reasons for the anti-gun proposal, but they are missing the point. The point at this time is not whether the proposal is right or wrong, but whether the council has attempted to gather all relevant facts, hear the opinions of dissenting citizens, and deliberate on the information and the arguments. By all means, let's hear the arguments from both sides, and let's take the time to explore the facts. Now, what would the council do if the proposal did not relate to guns? For instance, if the proposal were to endorse universal background checks for all who want to purchase kitchen knives, perhaps like the one used in the recent double murder in Englewood, the council would surely research the facts, open the floor to discussion at multiple meetings, and deliberate for a significant period. To take another example, if the proposal were to endorse a ban on driving by anyone under 21, since approximately 80 New Jersey drivers under 21 die every year in accidents, that's not including passengers, the council would likewise explore the facts and the arguments even more and exercise caution in judgment. Neither of these examples involves a fundamental freedom, despite what teenagers in Teaneck might argue, but the anti-gun proposal does. Nonetheless, without fact-finding or solicitation of opposing views, the council is on the verge of endorsing significant restrictions on our fundamental right to protect ourselves and our families, a right that has already been greatly diminished by New Jersey law. We therefore request that the council spend at least 90 additional days to become acquainted with all local opinions and important facts, weighing them soberly and carefully before putting the proposal to a vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Castle.
Mr. Mayor, Council, just a point of clarification. I was invited to speak with Ms. Akery.
Your name for the record?
For the record?
Your name for the record.
Jason Castle, Teaneck. I was invited to speak with Ms. Akery by Ms. Akery. I actually thank you for your time because it gave me a chance to just calm down on this 100th birthday anniversary of Rosa Parks, as these ladies were sometimes the optics get away from us. I too am here in support of James Kinlock, and Ms. Acree asked me to look up the ordinance regarding the planning board, so I did, and I found it on the township's website. And under Article 16 for planning board, there is a section for alternate members, and it states the process by which alternate members are appointed by the council. But it also states that such alternate members shall be designated by the council as alternate number 1 and alternate number 2, and shall serve during the absence or disqualification of any regular member or members. Alternate members may participate in discussions of the proceedings, but may not vote except in the absence or disqualification of a regular member. A vote shall not be delayed in order that a regular member may vote instead of an alternate member. In the event that a choice must be made as to which alternate member is to vote, alternate number 1 shall vote. James Kinlock was alternate number 1. Now, I stopped reading there, and this afternoon I actually went and met with my attorney, and I asked him to look over this, because I am not a legal professional. I'm not a legal scholar. And what he said to me was, your first mistake is you stopped reading there. Because when you get to the next section, which is section 2-95, titled Vacancies, it states, if a vacancy in any class shall occur otherwise than by expiration of term, said vacancy shall be filled by appointment as provided above for the unexpired term. Now above it sets, not in order of precedence, but forgive me, the words are escaping me. It sets a succession plan. And that succession plan is that in the event of a vacancy or an absence, alternate number 1 shall vote. Now, you appointed James Kinlock as alternate number 1, knowing full well that in the event of a vacancy, he would become a voting member. My question is, knowing all of the qualifications that James Kinlock has, knowing that you appointed him to be a voting member in the event of a vacancy, knowing that the ordinance states that in the event of a vacancy, alternate number 1 shall rise and become a voting member, I ask, what was the reason that James Kinlock was overlooked and passed over? Perhaps it was an oversight, simply as you making me wait behind several others on this day, this 100th anniversary of Rosa Parks. Maybe that was an oversight. Perhaps it was an oversight that you didn't see me join the group that I was invited to speak with by Gwen Acree. Perhaps just a dislike for me was the reason that I stood there. For those who are listening, I'll let you know I stood at the White House for far more minutes than that. So standing is not a problem. But right now I'm standing before you because it seems like a gross injustice has been done here when the ordinance states that the first alternate who you appoint should become a voting member, and he has not been made a voting member. Lastly, I'd like to thank President of the Bergen chapter of the NAACP for coming this evening just to observe, and that's Mr. Anthony Curitan. Once again, the optics and the oversight, and it being the 100th anniversary or 100th birthday of Rosa Parks, I'm sorry that he had to see 3 women push behind someone else so that they could speak. And I'm sorry that he had to see me wait even longer because of some unknown reason. So perhaps you can answer that question as to why James Kinlock was not appointed. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you. It's 9:10. How many more hands do we have? How many more people do we have who would like to speak? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We started Good and Welfare at 9:05. Can we have a motion to continue Good and Welfare for another 15 minutes?
I'll move it. Let's continue Good and Welfare until everybody speaks.
Okay. Kimberly?
Good evening. My name on the planning board is Kimberly Jones. However, my legal name is Kimberly Elisa Jones Musavian, and that's the name that I will go by tonight. I'm a very proud member of the planning board. However, I'm also a resident of Teaneck that's extremely concerned about the planning board. On, on January 21st, I wrote a letter of resignation as alternate number 2 for the planning board of Teaneck. However, later that day, after watching President Obama be sworn in for the second time and rewatching documentaries about Martin Luther King Jr. and Rosa Parks, I realized that if I give up my seat on the proverbial bus, I've done a disservice to the community that I love and to all the people who made it possible for me to stand here today and say what's in my heart and in my mind. Beginning in 1993, I purposefully chose to live in Teaneck, New Jersey due to its rich cultural diversity and history as a welcoming town with progressive thoughts, as demonstrated by the vote to desegregate Teaneck schools, which occurred on May 13, 1964, exactly 5 years before I was born. I treasure my residency in Teaneck from 1993 to 1997 and from 2000 to present. I love my town and I speak highly of it all the time. In the 1990s, I wanted to give back to the community by volunteering to serve on Teaneck's Juvenile Justice Committee. It was a wonderful learning experience and allowed me to draw on my experiences as a Temple University School of Law graduate, a former member of the Philadelphia Prosecutor's Office, and a master's degree candidate at Rutgers School of Criminology. Although work took me to Connecticut for 3 years, I was thrilled to find a position back in New York City that would allow me to once again reside in my beloved Teaneck. I could have lived in New York City, I could have lived in Rockland County, I chose to live in Bergen County in Teaneck, and I've been back since 2000. When I was asked about volunteering my time to sit on the Teaneck Planning Board, I readily submitted my application, interviewed, and was asked to be a second alternate. I was proud to follow in the footsteps of Eleanor Kilizak, the first woman appointed to Teaneck's planning board in 1965. I attended the training session, passed the test, and took my chair on the dais to learn what I needed to be a productive member of the planning board. As some council members will recall, several months ago I was asked to re-interview for a position on the planning board. I did as requested and heard nothing. I first inquired about my reappointment on September 10, 2012, and did not receive an answer from Chair Bodner. I again inquired about my reappointment on October 22, 2012, and was told by Chair Bodner, quote, yes, 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 council took a long time in this process. While I was surprised at the length of time the reappointment took, I found myself shocked and disappointed to walk into the December Planning Board meeting to find a new member of the board. It had never occurred to me that James Kinlock and I would be passed over as full board members for someone who had not sat as an alternate, as we each did for years. In addition, I found the comments made to me during the last board meeting rather disturbing. One member said, quote, your vote doesn't count, your vote hasn't counted all night. I'm alternate number 2. I get it. I understand. But it wasn't what was said, it was the manner in which it was said. After all petitioners after all petitioners were heard, I excused myself for the remainder of that meeting. While I was walking out, another member stated, quote, why don't you sit and listen and observe? Well, I've sat and I've listened and I've observed for several years now. While I am not claiming to be an expert on the issues taken up by the planning board, I do feel that during each session I try my best to weigh the law with common sense and factors brought to the board by petitioners and the public. I feel that I've been fair with all of my decisions, whether they counted or not, and I certainly believe that I am well qualified to be a full board member. I do not believe that passing over alternate board members in favor of others is ethical, fair, or wise. Furthermore, I believe that the planning board should reflect the rich diversity of our town, which I've come to love. Here we are in Black History Month 2013, a time when many feel that there's no such need for months of recognition and remembrance. But I can tell you, from my point of view, we certainly still need it. I'm hereby respectfully requesting that the council reinstate James Kinlock to the planning board and appoint him as a full board member and move me into Mr. Kinlock's alternate number 1 position. By the way, Mr. Kinlock told me that this council already moved me into the number 1 position. I was not officially notified, and therefore I believe I'm still in position number 2. Thank you, Mr. Kinlock, for letting me know, and thank you for your time and consideration.
Sir, in the blue.
Daniel Rosenblum, Teaneck resident. 2 things. First of all, when my wife and I moved to Teaneck over 20 years ago, we moved here because we wanted, mostly, our kids, the main reason, to grow up in a community which, unlike most in this country, is a very diverse community and a community that honors that diversity and is explicitly diverse across the color line, because that's the fundamental diversity, that's the fundamental division, that's the fundamental division of oppression in this country, which has to be crossed. And I'm very proud to say that we chose to live in that community. I'm disappointed to find that a community that has prided itself on being a leader in trying to cross that line, in trying to bring people together across that line, seems to be beset by an opaque government that is no better than that of any of the other small towns around here. When I hear about the kinds of processes that went into the 4-day work week decision or into the decision to pass over Mr. Kinlock on the planning board, these are disappointing and they're disturbing. And I'm not going to claim any special knowledge of the merits of those, but the fact that they have raised serious issues about process is not good. Well, having said that, I'd like to appeal to the council to do something that is good, and that is to move to support Resolution K and to recognize that gun violence in this country is a major problem that needs to be addressed now, that should not be buried for 90 days when it's going to be forgotten about. We know the facts. The public health literature is very, very clear on this, and you can look in issue after issue of the peer-reviewed American Journal of Public Health, the premier organ in public health, to see what the effects of unregulated gun trade and gun ownership, not all gun ownership. I have friends who hunt, I have friends who are shooting enthusiasts, but unregulated gun ownership and trading does. Why is it that in the United States we have something like 20 times the average, our gun murder rate is 20 times that of the average of other high-income countries? We are awash in guns. If guns were making us safer, we would be the safest country hands down. Instead, we're not. And the epidemiological evidence is very, very plain on this. We don't need to wait 90 days. The facts are out there. It's time to start taking action. I appeal to you to pass Resolution K, to endorse Mayor Hamiduddin's joining Mayors Against Illegal Guns so that we can be on the right side in this. Thank you.
Naomi? Ms. Kramer, yes.
A few things.
Name for the record, please.
Oh, Naomi Teaneck. First, I'm sorry to see that James Kinlock, a qualified member of the planning board, does not have a position there, that he was overlooked for a promotion. It does seem that appointments to the planning board and to other boards is relatively random, and I don't think it should be.
on the gun issue. It's so interesting that all we're asking is a control over assault weapons and large clips and background checks. Nobody is saying we want to take away everybody's guns. It's interesting that those people, though, who are against any regulation, take the extreme that nobody is going to make it sound like we're taking away everybody's guns. That's not happening. That's not what the resolution asks, and hopefully you will not be moved by that, because it's a very extreme way of describing what the regulations that people are actually asking for. Also, $2 million to $4 million in a couple of years to put turf down on a piece of land is way above inflation. Way above inflation. I don't know how many times it is inflation, but it's way above inflation. So I would hope that you would rebid this or find some other way to get a better deal. A $2 million increase just does not sound right. And nobody has talked about this, but there's the whole issue of Oprahs and needing extra people to deal with the Oprahs. And I have a solution I had asked for last year. Many, many, many times. You're smiling. You probably know what that solution is. Maybe if you held workshops, or at least where you discussed what is going to be on the agenda, before it shows up on the agenda, we would know what's coming. We would know what's going to be on the agenda and what the underlying issues in relation to what's on the agenda, because you will have been discussing it. And then there wouldn't be the need for Oprah, and there wouldn't be the need for extra people. So I'm hoping that you will reconsider some way to give the public a preview of what you're planning to deal with at a council meeting before it occurs. Thank you.
Barbara?
Barbara Toffler, Teaneck. Three things. One, very quickly, I also want to refer to the increase in the Votee Park fields. And what I would like to do is see any new documentation that has been prepared between Teaneck and Green Acres DEP, because we have the documents that indicate that they have agreed to our spending $2.485 million, and it is broken down in terms of our piece and loans and grants. So I'd like to see the documentation that says that DEP and Green Acres is going along with this increase to $4.2 million. Two, my second statement is that I would just urge people, and I do have a copy of it, to read a statement made on, I believe it was June 26, 2007, by then Council Member Adam Gusson. Council Member Gusson, speaking when the Council did not reappoint me to the Planning Board. That was a year after I'd been passed over for being moved up and Mark Schwartz was placed on the board. But Mr. Gusson, I guess you remember that statement. Mr. Gusson began by saying that he had sworn to follow the Constitution, etc., and that he looked in the Constitution and the word diversity is not in the Constitution, and therefore he was not bound to follow diversity. And one of the reasons he was taking a stand against me was because I believed in diversity and he did not wish to appoint people. And this is all right there, anyone can see it. He did not wish to appoint people who did not hold the same values he did, and he did not value diversity. The final statement I do have to make is I appreciate Mr. Rosa's statement, but I felt that indeed some very offensive statements were made. And one, I guess I decided it wasn't so offensive, was calling Teaneck 2020 a Tea Party movement. Well, when I thought about it afterward, I thought, Mayor, you are absolutely right. Thank you for the history lesson. The Tea Party, and I never know how this present odd Tea Party got that name. I'll wait till you finish passing papers. Please hold my minutes. Thank you. The Tea Party, as you all know from history in school, was originally the Boston Tea Party. And indeed, in 1773, the Boston Patriots, and that's not football players, but the Patriots of Boston, Massachusetts, climbed aboard the British ships and dumped the tea because of the new tea tax, which had been levied by Britain. And you will recall that what was shouted at the time was no taxation without representation. And if necessary, I think there will be people in this town. I will do what Joan Baez did during the Vietnam War. I will figure out what percentage of my taxes goes to various elements that I believe are wrong and do not represent this town, and I will withhold the taxes that I pay for those elements, as Ms. Baez did in the Vietnam War. No taxation without representation.
Mr. Powers?
Yeah.
Chuck Powers, Teaneck. I want to turn something around tonight. There's been a lot of criticism. I think it's almost all valid. But I do want to suggest that you are looking at a budget in which about 6 to 7% of it will go to the BCUA, the place where our sewer tax goes. And we pay it without ever asking any questions about it. And it has risen, folks, in the last 5 years, 36%. And the rate of inflation, the total inflation increase cumulatively is 7%. We're paying 7% more a year over what has been a 5-year period that would equal 1 year of that inflation rate. We have at least fewer people, and we probably have less total business, generating less total sewer stuff. How in the world have you folks failed to follow up on that question? I've asked that question for 3 years. You have another issue. How did you get to 4.2 million? Well, actually, you got there, as I understand it, in violation of your own code. Because the code says that the only way in which capital projects can come before your council is after there has been a review of the total capital budgets for 6 years by your planning board. And that actually would require someone to look at the discrepancy between 2.48 and 4.2 as a matter of procedure. I'm suggesting ways out tonight. And now, since the planning board would have additional importance, and the issues of diversity are, in my judgment, incredibly important for that, I want to talk just a minute about what James Kinloch said tonight. I listened extremely carefully to what he said. He suggested that earlier this year, you actually embraced a view that it's okay for someone who has given you a resignation to rescind it. You actually had a resolution end on the 24th of July that actually did that. I think it's worth kind of going back and looking at. So it sounds like what he did tonight, you already have embraced. Now let me go to the next question. Did you, in fact, he suggests that you didn't actually appoint these people because you didn't go through the proper nominating process. I'm going to take a very good look. He suggested that your minutes suggest that you did something you didn't do. I happen to remember that early September meeting, and I'm going to go back and take a very good look at that period at the end of your meeting when you folks discussed a series of issues which, according to Mr. Kinloch, were not actually on your agenda, and how, therefore, you were dealing with the issue of a planning board appointment. And in fact, what he says is, you never actually had a vote, which the mayor, in another discussion with Mr. Pruitt, I remember having told Mr. Pruitt, well, I believe that you have to have 4 people affirm something in order to make a nomination. Now, I'm going to go back and look at that, because as you know, I have all the videos. And I'm going to go ahead and get that up on YouTube tonight, and we'll see whether or not you actually did a point. My sense is that Mr. Kinloch does his research fairly well, and my guess is you never actually carried out that appointment. That gives you a way of going back and putting yourself back in concert with the rest of this community. This community is here saying tonight, we don't much like how you're going about your business. We think process is very important, and there are process mechanisms by which you can begin to rectify the things that are going wrong. Thank you.
Sir in the front.
Don Wassam, Teaneck. I'm a little bit confused about what I'm supposed to do here tonight, because my first intentions was to report something to you that I was very unclear about. And after hearing the discussion about guns and all the problems that we're having with guns in our country today, and how important it is that whatever guns we have, people know about them. So in 1972, when I first moved into Teaneck, having been from West Virginia all my life and have done a lot of hunting and shooting, I brought all my weapons with me because I had nobody to leave them with. I've had these old weapons for over 60 years, and I still have them. And when I moved in, I went to the police department, and I said, what do I do with these weapons, you know? I wanted to make sure I'm in good standing. I don't want people stealing them and killing people. They said, oh, you don't need to register the guns here in Teaneck. We don't do that anymore. You know, that's you just keep them. But recently I've been listening like the rest of you have with all the mass killings and people shooting people in the streets and things of that sort. And I began to wonder, maybe I should try and re-register these guns after all. Maybe it's something that's important now that Teaneck has decided they would want to do this. So I went to our police department, and I met with the man. And I told him exactly what I wanted. He says, well, how many forms do you need? I said, I need about 10. So he took about 15 minutes, and he didn't know where to look for the forms. He looked all over. He couldn't find any forms. He went to the back, and he comes back, and he says, we don't have any forms. He says, just put your name and address on this thing. We'll send you the forms. I said, fine. About a week and a half later, I got the forms. They were forms for license rings so that I could carry a gun. Now, my question to you is, am I supposed to register these guns? Do you guys really care that I've got this arsenal in my home? Or do you feel that I should, continue to use them accordingly? That's my first concern. Second concern is, on about 2 weeks ago, I got a parking ticket for parking on the Snow Street on January the 18th, 2011. My ticket was $110. They added an additional $10 to something. I never got the ticket. I never saw the ticket. I never got a notice saying that you're in violation of or delinquent in coming to court to pay this ticket. It's been over 2 years. And I think that's appalling that you've got a system that's 2 years outdated that none of us can dispute, because who remembers what happened a year ago on the 18th of January, let alone January the 18th 2 years ago. So I think somebody ought to take a look at that. It's not a fair system at that point in time. Thank you. And maybe I can find out somewhere along the line about my guns.
Your information to the clerk. She'll get me in touch.
Oh, okay, great.
Members of council, I wasn't planning on speaking tonight, but after Mr. Wassam, I felt I had to.
Just your name for the record, please.
Sandy Loft, Teaneck. I'm on Temple Emmett's Social Action Committee and on its subcommittee for against gun violence. as well as the gun chairperson for National Council of Jewish Women, Bergen County section. About a month ago, I went over to the police department after a social action committee meeting where we had decided we wanted to find out how many guns were registered in Teaneck. We felt it was an important piece of information and that we should all know. So I went over to the police department. They gave me a Freedom of Information type form to fill out, which I did, and they told me to bring it to the clerk, which I did. No problem with the whole procedure. I received a phone call that within 7 to 10 days I would get the information I asked for, which was how many guns are registered in Teaneck, and if possible, could you provide me with the information of how many guns are in each of the 4 quadrants of town? Because I felt if we had the information and we didn't know what parts of town had the guns, perhaps some people might draw misconclusions about what parts of town would have those guns. To make a long story long, after 10 days, I didn't receive any response. And so I called. And I was told that because my request needed research or something like that, I couldn't get that information. I believe it was an email that I received. And I emailed back and said, okay, could you please suggest how I could get that information? And the response was, perhaps I should contact the New Jersey State Police, and maybe they had that information. So I went on that website, and there was no place on it where I could get that information. I don't understand why we don't know how many guns are registered in Teaneck. I think it's very important that not only just to know as general information, but people assume that in affluent communities there aren't guns all over the place, and there are. And it's very important that we know this and that we deal with it and come to terms with what's going on in this country. And as many of you sitting up here know the quote, he or she who saves one life saves the world entire. I believe it's from the Talmud or it's Hillel. I think that if we save one life by curtailing this gun violence, we will have made this a better world. Please pass Resolution K. Thank you.
You got it. Anyone else like to speak? Seeing no other hands, good and welfare is now closed. Mr. Vatsky, my position, as I have stated many times, is that the council is negotiating with the unions to bring back 5 days' worth of service. Okay? So I know that you want a timeline, but I don't understand why I've said this a year ago. Okay? So we have been in negotiations with the union for that amount of time. Jamie? The gentleman, if you can just get his name, his information also, so that we can contact him regarding the Chadwick Street, I believe it is, and we'll move on. I thought we just changed it. We'll look at it and see what the issues are and find some kind of solution. It's interesting that there's a lot of process arguments tonight, except when the process is in a favor that everybody agrees on in the room, which is Resolution K, which I think it's an amiable. I mean, it's a valid request to ask us to review it, but I would like to say that in the interest of this council, I would like to move very quickly on this and get this off our plate so that we can move forward and talk about the issues of gun violence in a in a bigger light, in a bigger manner. Now, when we talk about mayors against illegal guns versus U.S. Conference of Mayors, and we always go back and forth on this, is that the mayors against illegal guns, they don't have a program for Georgia. I asked them, what is your, as a mayor, I would hope every mayor is against illegal guns. It kind of defeats the purpose if you're a mayor for illegal guns. And what Mr. Bloomberg's organization versus Michael Nutter's organization as president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, as well as standing next to Dianne Feinstein when she introduced legislation, is at this time where I would like to be. Now, if council wants to vote me to put my name on mayors against illegal guns, I have no problem with that. But I want to make the distinction between, just for the public's sake, this isn't going to happen on the Senate level. Okay, this is going to happen if people want to get involved at a state legislative level and in state by state make this an issue. So you've just taken the first bite out of the elephant. I hope you guys really have the stamina and the appetite to eat the entire elephant, because I know I'm going to be there, and I hope to see a lot of you guys there too. Now, with regard to the planning board, this issue of diversity is very, very a hot button issue in our town that people like to take. In 2006. It was people weren't on the planning board, and we're trying to develop North Teaneck Road and develop it so that we're going to have some nefarious plans for the town. So in 2006, we passed zoning that the only way you're going to build something on North Teaneck Road is if you pass it by ordinance. Now, there's an opportunity for, again, as Dr. Pruitt said, we should look at it. Well, everybody's here. And I would hope that everybody puts their input on what they would like to see on North Teaneck Road. I would love to have the planner meet with the Northeast Block Association and decide if you want development there, or you want it the same, or what's feasible, what's not feasible, and start that discussion with our development committee so we can take that input and decide, what we want to do here. Because development is not only a hot button issue on Teaneck Road, it's on Cedar Lane, it's on low-lying areas over American Legion Drive, over by Dairy Queen. And we like more people to be part of the process. Just by a show of hands, how many people have taken Leadership Teaneck? Okay. So a lot of us are very well versed in the process of how, the planning board works, how appointments are made, and how these things happen. When somebody gets looked over or somebody doesn't get put on the planning board, obviously there's going to be some hurt feelings about this. And council, when we try to build consensus, building consensus in government is a very hard thing, kind of like herding cats. And I know a lot of people would like it their way. And just like tonight, when a group of people want to come in, and this council happens to agree with this group of people right now when it comes to gun control, but we want fast action, we want quick action, then it's okay. But when you disagree with us and we say that, okay, we would like to move quickly in X direction or Y direction, all of a sudden it's a process issue. And I think that as we look at the context of what I had my discussions last week, whether I was talking about the Tea Party or whatever I was talking about at that time, is sometimes people come here in a political context. And this body right now is here to govern and here to look over the resolutions and make resolution changes and make sure that we appropriate money and make sure that the township is running. And we get sidetracked with, people want to bring emotional arguments into it, talking about, we're not representative or we're not listening to the people. I'd like to say, what kind of zoning, we haven't made any zoning changes since 2006 to Teaneck Road or anywhere else in this town after the planning board was passed. So the question comes down to is, what would you like to see? And if you'd like to see that stuff, we're here. We're waiting for opportunities for you to come in and say what would you like to see in terms of development? Because we have. Excuse me, I didn't interrupt anybody. Thank you. So when we're talking about development, or we're talking about the planning board, and we talk about it in these contexts of we're not representative, but what. I'm at a loss right now, because I just would like to know what is it that we would like to see as a vision of the town moving forward in development. Because I remember 2006 vividly. The town overwhelmingly came out no to high density development. And we've never passed zoning. We could have in 2010. We could have in 2012. We've never changed the zoning ordinances. So I'd like to hear the feedback, and I'd like to see people come in with some suggestions, and maybe, as Councilman Schwartz talked about development meetings, we could start moving on that now that the budget is put to bed. Councilman Parker?
Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure if the point was gotten or what I received from what was said today. The fact of the matter is that a planning board member was skipped when appointments were made back in September. And this is not the first time that that's happened. I think I remember at least 2 other occasions in my tenure of the council in which this has occurred, and it's not right. And I know that we are the governing body and we make the decisions in terms of what our processes are, and I think that we need to evaluate our process, because what does it say to an alternate to sit for years to not be moved up when a vacancy should occur in a regular appointment? I found myself in that very same position, wanting to push forth a resident to be a regular member on the Board of Adjustment when a vacancy became available. And when I thought about it, I rescinded my resolution, because it's not right to skip over alternates. And I think that we need to look at our process and put some language in our ordinance that says that if a person is an alternate on a board, that they're automatically moved up to a vacancy. I think that we need to seriously look at that, because we respect the time. All of our boards are important. All of the time that people put forth on our boards is valued. And I just think it's a slap in the face to any resident to not be considered for a regular appointment should one become available. There was an ordinance that was written, part of our ordinance, I guess, part of the code was read out today. And I'd like to ask Mr. Rupp, what does that section of the code say and what does it mean?
I believe the speaker misinterpreted this section. The provision that was cited was in section 2-95, vacancies. If a vacancy in any class shall occur other than by expiration of term, said vacancy shall be filled by appointment as provided above for the unexpired term. That is precisely the language which is set forth in the Municipal Land Use Act in section 40:55D-23. It does not apply to the appointment of alternates to fill regular positions. What it provides for is that the method of filling vacancies in any of the classes on the planning board, right, are to be filled in accordance with the statutory requirements to fill those positions. So it's not only alternates, it also is vacancies in class 4 members, class 3 members, class 2 member, and class 1 member. So again, that section, which is found right out of the statute, does not say alternates need to be appointed in the regular position. And the statute which governs doesn't say that either. And in fact, if you read our code, you'll see that it parrots the state statute in those regards.
So do we have the authority to change that language?
I don't believe so, and the reason why is that it talks about the method of filling class 4 members is in our form of government by the council. And that is the method by which class 4 members, you cannot have an automatic promotion or appointment, because that's subject to council approval.
But it certainly could be the practice of the council to do so.
Practice is something that governs your own decision making. I'm just telling you from a legal point of view, you can't make it an ordinance that says an alternate automatically fills a vacancy that is not consistent with the Municipal Land Use Act.
And can we have a legal opinion, written legal opinion on that? A written legal opinion on that?
I'll be happy to provide one.
Okay.
But I think that it should be adopted as our practice, that we move people up as vacancies become available on the board.
I kind of agree with you in theory, but I don't see how that works with elections. You know, I can't make a deal for the next guy who comes in to sit here, you know, when I'm done in 2017. So, you know, in 2017, you know, I'm not here, or two other people aren't here, and they say, no, you know, that's not the practice that I'm going, because that's what the law says. I think that we have to find a happy medium to make the residents happy and make sure that all the residents feel comfortable with the representations that they have on the board. And just how we do that, you know, not everybody's going to always be happy, but I think that we should work to find some kind of common ground.
But I think that we should govern for the time that we're in the position and not worry about what happens when we're no longer in the position. And
you know, I think that, you know, while you're saying that, but it turns into this whole thing again, and I've been through this, you know, where people say this is always the way it was done, and then somebody else comes out and say, no, well, this isn't the way it was always done. And rather than looking at it and saying that, okay, if you're already an alternate, because things can happen. I mean, within any ordinance, I would like to see, well, what's the behavior of that individual? Like, what if that person goes out and does something? Does that mean I have to automatically move him up if he goes out and, for argument's sake, goes out and commits a crime or something? You know, I mean, these are the things that we have to discuss. And I think it's a longer discussion.
I think that it's worth the discussion. I mean, I've had a discussion with colleagues regarding past councils of 1990s, or you know, when Paul Astro was on the council and the same type of thing happened. But I just think that we need to respect individuals that serve, and like I said, I know you get very passionate about people that you want to be appointed to boards. I want Howard Thompson to be a member of the Board of Adjustment, but I recognize the fact that Mr. Mulligan has served his time as an alternate, and it wouldn't have been fair to him to appoint him, to step over him. And I think that we should all, take that into consideration when appointments become available.
And that was the first time that, we started moving that in that way. And
well, perhaps it should have happened in July. I wasn't here in September, so I would have...
We can all talk about when government starts making good decisions, but, I mean, it's a process. And this is part of the process. So when, again, I'm open to discussing it. If anyone else would like to weigh in here.
Yeah, let me get it on it.
Yeah.
I think I started talking about this a couple of weeks ago, but let me give the public a little background. There are two committees or two boards. One is the Board of Adjustment, and the other one is the Planning Board. Now, those boards are independent of council influence once you get appointed. So, and also, the two boards have a lot to do with how the town is going to develop over time. So you got to be real careful who you put on there. And in my judgment, we have to make sure that the regular members and the alternate members have some relevant background to sit on those committees. Now, I'm not saying that the persons there now don't have it. I'm just saying that you make sure that they do have it, which makes everybody who is on the list, that means the 7 regular members of the Board of Adjustment, and alternate number 1, alternate number 2, alternate number 3, and alternate number 4 should be equivalently capable of being in that spot. In the Planning Board, the number of people are 6 members, plus the township manager. No, excuse me. There's 6 members plus the police chief, the mayor, and I think Mr.
6 members plus 1 township employee.
Okay.
In this particular case, the chief,
Okay.
the mayor, and a council member.
All right, and then there's two alternates, an alternate one and an alternate two. Now, outside of the police chief and the council member and the mayor, everybody else should be very well qualified for that spot, and I'm sure those people are qualified too. And the two alternates should be qualified for the spot. Now, it is possible, and it has happened in the past, that people have sat in the alternate spot for 2 or 3 or 4 years, and somebody from outside gets moved ahead of them. That's just not fair. And the question is whether this council is willing, as we are seated, to look at that, to make sure that since we're using these volunteers' time, we treat them as fairly as we possibly can. Now, in the past, other councils have done the same thing this council did. They put people ahead of other people. And I want to point out, so that there's not a misperception tonight, it doesn't only happen with black people. They have stepped over white people in this particular situation. I got to say that, because when you look at television and you see all these people coming up here, you think it's a racial issue. It's a process issue. And we have to make sure we stay with that as the main thing. I hope that my fellow council people will look at what we're doing and try to be a little fairer in the next appointments that come along. Now that's that piece. The other piece is the committee that came forward with the resolution for the anti-gun control. Those people did a very fine job. They have a very well-crafted piece of legislation. And I think that the majority of people in Teaneck would be pleased if the council unanimously signed that document. Okay.
Ali? Councilors, do you have anything? Anyone here?
Yeah. It was brought up by several speakers tonight, the bond ordinance, which we'll be discussing later in the agenda for the fields in Votey Park, and want to address some of the concerns. Obviously, I take offense to Mr. Rasheen's accusation that I'm picking people's pockets with this project. Ms. Kramer asked that this project be rebid to determine actual cost, and Ms. Toffler requested information regarding the original Green Acres grant proposal from DEP and Green Acres that had a very different cost structure back from, I think, numbers from 2007 that were used in that proposal. I'm going to talk about a few different elements of this. First off, the project, Naomi, can't be rebid because it's never been bid before. In order for us to put something out to bid, we must have an appropriations approved in order to begin the legal process of bidding. And so the motion tonight, or the ordinance that we're introducing tonight to allow for the bond ordinance, is the appropriation action that we have to take before we're allowed to put this out to bid. And that's the process that the law requires. So we're going to look at this bond ordinance tonight so that we can put it out to bid to find out what the project's ultimately going to cost. Now, the $4.2 million, and just a few things to talk about as far as the dollars involved and the cost to our taxpayers. Just bear with me one moment. Jamie, I'm sorry. I seem to have just misplaced my bond ordinance. I don't know what I just had. Do you have another copy? Thanks. The bond ordinance that we're going to be taking into tonight talks about the sum of $4.2 million is to be appropriated. When we pass this, or should we pass this after introduction, this does not in any way mean we're going to bond $4.2 million. What it means is that we're looking to allow for up to, not to exceed, a $4.2 million appropriation. That appropriation is based on contributions from State Green Acres and grants and loan around $750,000. The contribution from our own Municipal Open Space Trust Fund of a little over $2.1 million. Funds from the county as well, from County Green Acres, and then subsequently, once our budget is adopted this year, it will also include the 2013 contribution from the Municipal Open Space Trust Fund. That being said, the way the $4.2 million price structure was estimated at this point, there was a series of meetings with several stakeholders, from the sports leagues to the rec department to members of the community, that put together a sort of wish list of bells and whistles that would be on this project. I can tell you I don't support going forward with many of those bells and whistles. The undertaking is significant and impactful enough without adding the icing on top of the cake. So I think as long as we have the cake, we're going to be okay. That being said, anytime we look to budget a project, there's always factors for contingencies figured in, which raise the number. But based on the grants that we have from the state, our own Municipal Open Space Trust Fund dollars, as well as the county dollars available, it is my understanding, I think, and the understanding of all of my colleagues, that ultimately this project is going to be bid, awarded, and completed without us incurring ever a single dollar of debt, other than the $128,000 part of the Green Acres State program that's a loan, as opposed to their $622,000 grant. And so it's, I think, the expectation of this council that this is going to come about without actually incurring any debt at all. But we can't move forward to even find out what the project's going to cost until we put forth this appropriation. So I just wanted to kind of touch on several of those issues. We obviously will have a hearing when we introduce the ordinance, but I think gives some background information as far as what the process is of appropriations, then bidding and awarding contracts.
Thanks. Councilman Stern? Councilman Katz, did you have something? I'm sorry.
Yeah. First, Alan Sohn, you're a very funny guy, you're a very smart guy, and I respect you a lot, but I think your comment about our township employee, our manager, that he leads the low life, was not really called for, and I think that you should apologize for that privately. That's just my personal feeling. I cringed when you said that, and I'm sure maybe you did too. He's still our employee. Elected officials, we put ourselves out for that. You can call me that every day, but not one of our employees. As far as the board positions, I appreciate you saying what you said. That you made it very clear that that we don't have any any specific rhyme or reason the way it appears. I'll tell you from my point, I don't feel that any appointment, and I've said this to all my colleagues, is insignificant. And I value every single one of our boards, and I value every one of our volunteers for our boards. But I'll tell you, a few years ago, we had a major backup on our planning board. We had a major backup on our Board of Adjustment. People were complaining to the council members. Residents would put in applications, and it would take 3 to 4 months to get their applications heard. Businesses would put in sign applications to open up a new business, and it would take 4 months to get to the planning board. I mean, some of those businesses went out of business before they got their sign approved. And these are all very important traits and qualities that we have to take into consideration when making these board appointments. And if you do look at the record, you will see that we're absolutely there was no specific routine or way we chose people, but the way I think we individually voted was who was going to be complementary to the board and who was going to be responsive. Attendance is very important when we're dealing with these boards. Over the last few years, we've had, and that's why I'm not going to talk about the specific individuals that were mentioned tonight, because they are volunteers and they do work hard for our community, and they put themselves out for our community and give up their time. But what I look for when I appoint someone is their attendance. What I look for when I reappoint someone is their attendance, to make sure that we don't have a repeat of the issues that we had. I'll tell you personally, I feel the planning board is running pretty smoothly. I think the Board of Adjustment still needs a lot of work as far as getting it. We have great people up there, but there's still a very long time lapse to get residents in front of the Board of Adjustment, and residents who want generators, residents who want expansions, residents who want decks, are frustrated by the process. And I think it's the responsibility of elected officials to identify the right clique of people that are going to work well. We don't tell them how they vote. We don't want to know how they vote. We just want to make sure that they're being fair to the process. I'm sorry, did I? All right. And that's what I look for. So I do take my time sometimes, and I'll tell you what you didn't hear tonight is, and I'm sure it's going to be open tomorrow, is all the applications of the people that we interviewed for the Board of Adjustment and the Planning Board that didn't make it or that weren't appointed, and they're good people, and it just we have limited amount of positions, and we wish we could appoint everyone that wants to apply. We try to encourage them to go to a different board if there's not availability. But this is the real process, not the, as Mr. Castle mentioned, he took my word, but the optics of what you may hear or you may see. The real process it is a process. We interview. In fact, right now, council is working to try to get a consensus on one of our appointments. And we're talking to each other. We're trying to figure out what's, someone wants one person, someone else wants another person, and there's only one spot, and we're trying to come up with and they're good people, both good people. And we're trying to come up with a fair end for that appointment, and hopefully we will. And that's my response to the process. And as far as the residents feeling that there might have been an injustice, I'm glad you brought it to our attention. I'm glad you sensitized, at least myself. But I hope that you were educated a little bit by what I said, what Dr. Pruitt said, what the mayor said, and Councilwoman Parker mentioned. Thank you.
Also, if you can just get the gentleman's contact information, if you're going to grab his contact information. And William, if you can be in touch, you have it? Okay, you have it? Great. And so they'll let you know what to do. They'll be in touch to let you know what to do with your arsenal.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Great.
Mr. Mayor, I do have two other questions, just dealing with the Mr. Kinlock. Procedurally, is there anything in our code or in the state law that says he could rescind his resignation? He spoke about.
Yeah, he cited a case. I think it's Rhinesmith versus Goodfellows. I think that's, and I'm actually familiar with that case. Involved a municipal.
Surprising her.
Yes,
we're not surprised.
And we actually recited in connection with some other matters that came up before the council. But having said that, I'm not quite sure that's the case that would be on point here. More recently, however, the legislature has adopted a statute relating to vacancies, and this is found in 48:9-12.1, which provides for when a vacancy occurs in appointed positions, and this would include both Planning Board and Board of Adjustment. And then it lists a series of events. The second event is, quote, upon the filing by such officer of his written resignation. Go on. That establishes a vacancy, and then the statute goes on to say, whenever any of the above, that section being one of them, shall occur, the appointing authority shall forthwith fill the office for the unexpired term in the manner prescribed by board. So the vacancy occurs upon the submission of a written resignation, among other causes.
So it can't be rescinded? That was the question. I just want a simple answer.
Ryan Smith versus Goodfellas, again, not applicable, I think, in terms of the facts. That's a 1935 case, give or take. The Municipal Land Use Act didn't exist at that time. The Title 40A that I just read from didn't exist. So the truth of the matter is that...
I'm sorry, I'm going to ask Councilman Parker's question again. Is that yes or no?
There is no statutory authority to rescind a resignation. It looks like a vacancy occurs as soon as the written resignation is filed.
So I just have one more question after that. If there's a vacancy, if the resignation is not rescindable and the vacancy exists, so it would, we could assume that anybody could be put into that vacancy. Is that correct? Anybody.
Including the person who...
Okay. Exactly, including the person who resigned. Now,
so you can't rescind the resignation, but you could appoint the resignee.
Right, yeah. In this case, that's true. There are other cases where there are term of office issues that may not be possible, but it's not in this case.
Okay.
And the other thing, I'm sorry. Norma Getz mentioned the open space incentive grant with respect to what Councilman Katz spoke about. Is that something we can look into?
Yeah. I mean, I'm in favor of looking into that. It's to see if we can use that grant towards purchasing those 4 properties, if that grant is still available.
I think the issue is we got to match it.
Okay, so let's find out how much the properties are. We got 250, you know.
Yeah, can
we have to match 250.
Yeah.
Okay, you gave me direction before to check the price. The only, can I just say one thing? Just going back, with Chadwick Road, the gentleman's requesting decal parking. I think in our last meeting, council talked about the issue of resident parking and decal parking, that we wouldn't be going further in issuing those types of permits.
Well, I think what ended up happening is we changed the ordinance because nobody came out against it. Now we have one person who was coming out against it. I think there's 6 people on, I don't remember how many people it affected at that time, but let's figure out what the problem is and then see if we can find a solution for Chadwick, just like we do everywhere else. Yeah, that's that. Go ahead, Dr. Pruitt.
Just to not, leave a hole in the discussion. Since no one has been appointed to that spot, we could re-accept the person who resigned. I mean, at this point,
we could appoint anybody to that spot.
Anybody, including that person.
And we'll put that under advisement. Gotcha. All right, the next item on tonight's agenda is the consent agenda. Would someone like to move the consent agenda and the bill list?
Yeah, I'd like to first pull resolution I as in India, and I'll move the consent agenda.
And the minutes?
And the minutes and the bill list?
I'll move the consent agenda and the raffles, which are none, the minutes from November 29, 2012, December 4th, 2012, December 18th, 2012, and resolutions B as in boy through, did you say there was an O as an octopus?
No.
No? Oh, B as in boy to N as in Nancy.
Read the bill list, please.
With I being pulled.
$7,067,106.43.
If you can mark me down as an abstention on the bill list.
Do we have a second on that?
I'll second it, but I just want to make a comment. Tonight we were given a bill list guide, which is something that I requested, and I hope that it is available to the public as well. The bill list format changed while I was out on maternity leave, and this is a key to show what the items, what the individual columns mean. So I thank you for this, and I hope that it'll be available to the public as well.
Just a comment before we vote, to indicate that the council is apparently going to vote for K unanimously.
We are.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Mayor, before I vote in the affirmative for Resolution K this evening, I just wanted to put on the record and in the minutes, Madam Clerk, if you wouldn't mind. My own personal feeling that although I may not agree with each and every word that's in that resolution, and that we can debate, both sides of this issue to death for a very, very long time, I believe very strongly that the most important thing we can do as a council, local elected officials, is to move this very critical discussion and conversation up to the state and federal level. And those are the only venues where this issue can be properly addressed.
I have one question. If you pass this resolution, you want this sent to the governor's office, you want this sent to the president?
Yes,
the president's office.
All
of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Our legislators, District 37,
Roll call, please.
all the way up.
Councilmember
Yes.
Park. Councilmember Stern.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Gusson. Councilmember Pruitt.
Yeah.
Councilmember Katz.
Yes, with an abstention on the bill.
Councilmember Schwartz. Mayor.
Yes.
On all.
So I'd like to move resolution. I'd like to move resolution I for discussion.
Okay.
Mr. Manager, can you tell us what we're buying? I mean, I see what we're buying. What is it for? What is it replacing?
This vehicle would be used by our battalion chiefs that respond to the various fire calls and fire incidents. It's replacing another fire vehicle, a Suburban. This was included in our capital budget, I believe in 2012. We included this in our capital budget, and now it's coming.
So right now, the battalion chiefs only have that one Suburban, or there's a second Suburban that's used as well?
They have the one Suburban.
There's no other vehicle that's used by the battalion chiefs?
Yes.
What year is do you know what year the one that we're replacing?
I'm not sure. It's got to be in the 90s.
In the 90s?
It's probably in the 90s. It's an old vehicle.
Guys, we can move the discussions outside, please.
I'd have to get the year of that vehicle to see what it's replacing. I might be able to get it by the end of this meeting.
Oh, yeah?
We approved it last year.
Okay. All right.
Okay, roll call, please.
I just need a second, I'm sorry.
I'd like to move resolution I.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Parker. Yes. Councilmember Stern.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Gusson. Councilmember Pruitt. Councilmember Katz.
No.
Councilmember Schwartz. Mayor.
You don't have.
Yes, we don't have enough people to pass it.
Oh.
Okay.
Need a majority of a quorum.
Need a majority.
The majority of a quorum present is enough to pass a resolution.
The fastest. Okay. Okay, great. Next item is introduction of ordinances. If you could introduce ordinance number 2013, or 3-2013.
Ordinance 3-2013, bond ordinance to authorize the undertaking of the Votee Park Turf Field project in, by, and for the Township of Teaneck and the County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, to appropriate the sum of $4,200,000 to pay the cost thereof, to appropriate municipal open space trust fund monies and state and county grants, to authorize the issuance of bonds to finance such appropriation, and to provide for the issuance of bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance of such bonds.
Somebody like
second.
Who's moving it?
I'll move it and second it.
Okay. Moved by Councilman Katz, and seconded by Councilman Stern. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Parker? Yes. Councilmember Stern?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Guston? Councilmember Pruitt? Councilmember Katz?
Yes.
Councilmember Schwartz? Mayor?
Yes. Next item, old business, none. Miscellaneous, none. New business, none. Communications, none. Committee reports? No?
No.
Does anybody have any? Okay. The Environmental Commission meeting is February 20th. Please, everyone attend. It's going to be at the Rhoda Center. Did you have? No? No? Okay. Councilman Pruitt, alternate statutory board members. Would you like to discuss that or hold that until we discuss it? We just discussed it already.
My point of view is that, at least for now, I'd like to see the practice move people up sequentially as we move through the two planning board and the Board of Adjustment. That's what I would recommend. Let's see if we can talk about it.
Okay, Councilman Shorts had to leave. Community work experience?
Sure. In previous councils, when I was first on the council, I brought forth the suggestion for Workforce New Jersey recipients, there's a 35-hour community work experience requirement that's required for them to receive their benefits. And in the past, the township has has offered volunteer opportunities for clients to fulfill this work requirement. And I think that it's a way of providing meaningful work experience to residents of Teaneck or New Jersey, and I would like to see us adopt that practice again of working with these individuals.
Gotcha. I'm sorry, did we get something in the packet regarding that?
No. We've done it before. I think Councilman Katz, do you recall when we used to have volunteers that were receiving Workforce New Jersey benefits, welfare benefits?
They were working for us?
Yes. Volunteer to receive their grants.
I apologize, I don't remember. I remember the senior service. I don't
Basically, they get to volunteer for us.
For 35 hours a week, yes.
Okay. I'm in favor as long as the manager's okay with that.
Okay.
But I like to see us move forward. I mean,
How do we proactively solicit that?
well, I have the contact information for the Bergen One Stop information, so I'll give it to the manager along with the brochure with the information in it.
And we're on.
And it can be in varying roles, clerical. I mean, the idea is that
It gives them life experience.
it gives them life experience. Should a vacancy become available, there's no, contract of employment, but it's a way of possibly getting employees as well.
Okay, so we're all in favor of it, correct?
Yep.
Yes? Okay. Township Manager's report?
Okay, first item, PSE&G Vegetation Management Program. I did contact them again as council requested. At this time, they do not have a planting program where they plant trees. That's what they reported. At this time, they don't have that program.
So, okay, thank you. No.
At this time, okay. Private handicap spaces, I reported on that issue. Earlier. Emergency Response Public Safety Committee. We did meet. I put the information that we gathered from the meeting into a document that I'll hand it out later, but I'm just going to read some of the items. We discussed many items. We discussed many items on how to improve communication between the residents and the township during emergencies and many other improvements that we can make. The alert sign-up we have for our website, we discussed placing information for those sign-ups at every transaction point, having them available on the counter in the municipal building, tax office, down at the Rota Center, and giving them out when we go to various meetings. That's already being done. Those flyers are out and distributed. There's a sign-up on the website. We now have about 1,000 people signed up on the website for alerts. In the municipal budget, in the capital budget, I included money in there as a result of our discussions in the subcommittee for emergency light towers and signboards. And those signboards would be placed at strategic locations in the town during emergencies and would provide information. We discussed daily conference calls. We usually speak as individuals as the emergency is going on, and sometimes we don't get together as a group and have conversations. So we're going to ensure that the manager's office and emergency management has a daily conference call with council members. We discussed the clergy council. using the clergy council to get out information to their congregants or constituents, emergency information that we may provide. I've had a meeting with the Teaneck Clergy Council. I have all their information, their contact information. I'll be able to contact them. I'll be able to use them as a vehicle to get information out to the community. Also, they have agreed to open their facilities as needed to serve as warming centers and a place the community could go during power outages or emergencies.
Mr. Matt, I'm sorry. There are a lot of, I guess, houses of worship in town that are not really active with the clergy council. Do you think maybe since, I guess there's the clergy council and then there's the clergy. They're both real assets for these emergencies. Do you think maybe you could ascertain like which ones are not really active with the clergy council and just send the same letter to them as well, trying to bring them into the tent?
Yes, that is a plan. I'm meeting with another group. I'm meeting with the Black Clergy Council, I believe, Thursday. I'm meeting with the Black Clergy Council to discuss emergencies and how they can assist the township. So I'm going to be holding these meetings with various groups.
That's great.
And developing lists of people I can get information out to so that they can...
Mr. Manager, I think it'd be a little bit easier, instead of ascertaining which clergy are not active at the Clergy Council, I think if you just built some sort of a list of all the clergy in town, period,
yes,
and reached out to them at once, I think that would probably be the most effective way to do it.
That's what I'm working on. We also discuss developing the capability to have text alerts during emergencies. I've reached out to a company called Nixle, and a lot of towns use Nixle. I applied for an account, and hopefully we should have that account very shortly, and we'll be able to send out those text alerts. We discussed it at previous council meetings, putting together some sort of brief document to residents to talk about emergency preparedness. We had included a whole section in our Teaneck Times that we mailed to each resident or each property owner, but we had a discussion about whether everyone would read that information that's in that document. So I'll be working with the subcommittee to prepare a separate mailing. Resident emergency preparedness manual. I included approximately $20,000 in the budget to develop a resident emergency preparedness manual, and after the budget's approved, I'll be working on that. We discussed also using FDU radio. FDU has a radio station. I had a meeting with officials at the FDU radio station. They agreed to assist us when they were on the air with getting out the message and getting out information on alerts. I have their contact information. Adopt a Senior program. I'm going to be working with the subcommittee on that issue to develop and adopt a Senior program. We also talked about the fire department's Wake Up program and trying to publicize it more and get more of our shut-ins signed up for that.
Do you have a press release on that, the Wake Up program?
I believe that we've put that out before. I'll double check, but I will double check. And lastly, we discussed issuing a letter for volunteers to assist in temporarily staffing our transition or reception center at the Rota Center. Once we're finally up and running, we've issued a flyer, and we had many people contact us and send emails and say they want to be involved. So I'll let the council know how that works. We also discussed having the township attorney look at the legality of creating an ordinance requiring certain facilities to have generators. Those types of facilities were senior housing facilities, assisted living facilities, possibly food stores over 12,000 square feet, and some other organizations. So that's something the township attorneys are looking at. And we discussed also having a meeting with PSE&G about developing the capability to neutralize down wires in a more timely fashion. We thought it was very important. We thought that right after these storms and you have all these wires down, that it's very important, even before they're able to restore all the power and get everything up, that these wires be immediately neutralized. So that's something we're working on as well. And the last item I have is I just want to report that the township has received $551,000 from FEMA, and that $551,000 was reimbursement for the October 29th, 2011 storm. Okay. We received it. We have it now. It's
Question,
yes.
Mr. Manager?
Yes.
Will that money be in any way, that's reimbursement, that doesn't affect our budget in any way, does it?
No, it's not going to affect our budget. It'll go into our surplus.
We don't have surplus.
It'll go into our fund balance.
There's no surplus in government.
It'll go into our fund balance. All right?
I think there are times when we use words that are the legal designation and words that make sense to normal human beings.
The word is fund balance.
And
was the dedicated phone line for residents to call in, the number
Yes.
we're going to establish.
yes, the dedicated phone line, I just met with our IT person. We will be setting it up. We'll have a separate phone number, and we should have that up and running shortly. I just want to make sure I have the capability to remotely put the message on. So we should have that up and running very, very shortly.
How many people can call into that at one time?
That I'm not sure. I'll have
Please
to
have
find
that
out.
information, because if we have one person, if it's only 5 people and we have 50 people calling, it's...
I got to look at how many they can do.
What less busy signals and more people having access to the information.
I think I heard you mention at some point that there would be the police station as a central location for updates on storms.
Yes.
So when people go there, there'll be some kind of documentation they can.
Well, one of the things we're looking at for the police station is, rather than some physical document, we're looking at having some sort of monitor on the wall that just scrolls information, during an emergency, rather than having to type a document and hand it out. If they're there, they can read, what's on the screen and what the information would be. So we think that could be helpful, since it's also a charging station, and the person would probably be in the lobby for a period of time charging their phone. I just have a couple other items I just want to run through real quick. These are council-directed items. I just want to give you an update on some of those items. There was a question about potholes by Route 4 in Bell. Those aren't actually potholes. There's an issue with the road on the westbound side, and the DPW will have to close the exit, and they're working with the DEP to get that done. That problem should be corrected shortly. There was also a question at one of our meetings regarding items that were on the website, a resolution that was on the website, and that resolution gave the manager certain authority. It was on the website, but it wasn't on the website as an approved resolution. The October 26 minutes have been posted on the website. I already spoke about the handicap parking space analysis. The tree ordinance, Mr. Terrence is working on that issue of the tree ordinance, which would allow residents to trim their trees or remove the tree with the approval of the township. Council requested that the DPW create a list of undesirable trees that people may want to have removed, included in that ordinance. DPW director's working on that issue. I have to schedule a date with the redevelopment committee, the subcommittee, so we can have a meeting. The car rental tax, Stanley, the township attorney, is reviewing that issue. Timeline for the RFP for the engineering services. I'm targeting February 19th, our next meeting, that I should have that for the council. Just waiting for some additional information to come in. We're querying other towns and seeing what they're doing as well. The SBA towers, I provided them with information on the other locations that were identified for cell towers. during the installation of the cell tower we do have by the Rota Center. I've contacted the gentleman several times. He said it would take a few weeks, and I haven't received any information back yet. Hopefully he'll contact me shortly on that. The dog park, the fence is up. We laid a gravel bed, and as soon as weather permits, we're going to put a stone dust bed on top of that instead of wood chips. So it won't be muddy, and we'll have good drainage there. That's in progress. That should be done very shortly. The 1475 Palisade Avenue, the sidewalk that abuts Queen Anne Road, we sent a letter to the owner requesting that he install the sidewalk there. We'll see what kind of response we get on that issue.
When are we giving them to come to compliance with that?
We're giving them, our first is an initial request. We're going to give them till the spring to get it done, in the spring. And we'll see what they say. Holy Name Hospital Medical Center, the billboard. I did have a meeting with Holy Name Hospital, with Holy Name Medical Center officials on December 12th to discuss the billboard. I've sent them emails. I'm waiting for them to get back to me. That's in progress. The bill list legend.
But just if we can, on that, the council subcommittee for the signs met about the locations for the Welcome to Teaneck signs and the directional business signs, and we've asked the
meeting again on Wednesday.
Right, no, next Wednesday. Yeah, and we've asked Mr. Gluck to come back with additional locations. We identified a bunch, and then he's going to take the map and bring it back to us.
Okay.
That's it?
And that's it.
Motion to adjourn?
Yeah.
Attorney's report, nothing? You gave it in closed session, right? Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yeah.
Okay.
How you doing?